For decades, we've searched the stars not just for planets, not just for signals, but for any oddities, those few moments when something in the cosmos refuses to obey the rules. And now it's possible that the James Webb Space Telescope found precisely that. What began as a routine study of the third interstellar object ever recorded in our solar system, 3I Atlas, has turned into something entirely new, entirely darker, and infinitely more important. Deep in the vast cold void beyond Mars, the Webb found something it shouldn't have. Not just light, but artificial light that acts unlike a comet or asteroid. It's a signature that doesn't match known reflection or physics refraction. And now astronomers and astrophysicists are left with one question that chills them to the core. What is 3I Atlas? Really? Stay with us as we investigate the data that has just reignited the oldest and most terrifying question of all time. Are we alone? 3I Atlas was initially discovered as a faint speck on the edge of the solar system, moving with a trajectory no local object could follow. It was clearly interstellar, born beyond the gravitational embrace of our sun, flung across the galaxy by some unknown force, now drifting silently through our neighborhood. It was initially treated as a cosmic curiosity, like its predecessors, Oumuamua and Borisov. But even in its earliest images, something felt off. Unlike most interstellar objects, 3I Atlas was unusually bright, and not in a way that made sense. Its brightness was not proportional to its estimated size or composition. It sparkled in a way that wasn't quite consistent, its brightness neither fading as anticipated nor bursting with any sign of outgassing or dust release. Traditional comets tend to brighten in bursts as ice sublimates, but this one remained steady, as if it were powered from inside. Telescopes across the globe turned to observe it, and the Webb, with its unparalleled ability to peer into the infrared spectrum, was brought in to decode the mystery. It saw something new everything, perched at the L2 Lagrange point. 1,000,000 miles from Earth, the James Webb Space Telescope was designed to see beyond the glare of stars and expose what is concealed within the shadows. Its gaze upon 3I Atlas was anticipated to clarify the ambiguity. Instead, it amplified it. The telescope's instruments detected a centralized thermal emission that didn't correspond to any organic reflection of sunlight. Typically, a comet shines due to the sun's rays bouncing off dust and ice, but 3I Atlas showed an internal heat signature, something that radiated from the inside out. This wasn't dispersed light, it was emitted light. A pattern was revealed by the thermal mapping that followed no known distribution curve of natural objects. It pulsed faintly, irregularly, and, most surprisingly, it appeared to cycle at intervals. That rhythm, repeating ever so subtly, suggested not randomness but design. NASA and some European Space Agency scientists proposed exotic explanations: decay of radioactive isotopes, alien isotopes, or friction in the subsurface. But as more data came in, those theories collapsed. The only consistent remaining explanation was the one no one wanted to write down. This object might be powered as data from Webb, Hubble, and terrestrial observatories piled up. A profile of 3I Atlas began to emerge, and it looked nothing like any known celestial body. Its trajectory was too precise to be chaotic, as if it was determining its course and subtly adjusting through gravity wells. Its rotation was unnaturally stable, with a tumbling motion that defied standard inertial drift and its lack of a cometary tail, even when passing near radiation from the sun, suggested a shell or casing or perhaps some other form of protection from the heat. Then came the most controversial conclusion. The albedo, or reflectivity of its surface, was measured to have parts that were close to perfect, approaching that of polished metal, not rock, not ice, not dust, but metal. The repercussions were shocking across the entire community of astronomers. If it was shaped metallic and emitting energy, then we were no longer observing a natural object. We were observing technology. Suddenly, the term probe was whispered in the corridors craft, beacon, even artifact. The idea that this might be a spacecraft from another planet was no longer relegated to conspiracy forums. It was now quietly moving through institutional emails behind encrypted firewalls. Possibly the most damning component was neither the thermal emissions, nor the trajectory, nor the strange metallic signature. It was the light. Photometric analysis showed something chilling. The light coming from 3I Atlas was focused in a narrow spectrum band. In other words, it wasn't a broad natural reflection of sunlight, but a controlled emission of specific wavelengths. This is precisely what we do with LED arrays, laser communication systems, and spacecraft signal beacons. Furthermore, frequencies in this band are frequently used for guidance and communication systems on Earth. In addition to that, the intensity of the light seemed to respond ever so slightly to solar radiation, as though some onboard system was adjusting it immediately. It flickered, not at random, but with a strange intermittent pulse. Astronomers ran the data through known models of signals. What they got was inconclusive, but not meaningless. Some claimed the pulses resembled binary sequences. Others said it might be a rotating power source. But the conclusion was undisputed. This wasn't a passive object. It was doing something deliberate, and we were watching it live as the data poured in. A team of Harvard and MIT astrophysicists took charge of a deep signal analysis of the electromagnetic emissions coming from 3I Atlas. At first glance, the frequencies appeared to be random noise, dispersed throughout the spectrum. Yet when they used Fourier transformations to identify cyclical patterns, something emerged, buried like a stone within the static. Underneath the chaos, there was a whisper-structured, repeating pulse too precise to be organic. It wasn't standard binary, nor a typical modulation used in human technology, but it bore the unmistakable evidence of deliberate encoding. There were rumors that it might be a beacon, a signal repeated with the goal of reaching receivers not of earthly origin. Others speculated that it might be telemetry, a constant data stream sent back to wherever this object came from. The unsettling part was this: no matter what the message was, it hadn't changed since the Webb first detected it. It appeared 3I. Atlas was not attempting to communicate with us, but with someone else. And maybe that someone had already heard it. News of the discovery spread quickly through the highest levels of scientific and defense institutions. A private report circulated internally within NASA and then leaked to an unnamed journalist revealed that high-ranking officials had already begun coordinating with global space agencies to determine whether 3I Atlas posed a threat. Some scientists contended that it was benign and ancient probe, perhaps centuries old, on a pre-planned route through the stars. Others weren't so optimistic. They inquired, but nobody could answer. If it is signaling, who is receiving? It has light emissions? Does it also have propulsion? Why is it here now, if it is here by design? The possibility was mentioned in the report, however remote, that 3I Atlas was not just passing through, but observing, tracking the positions of the planets, fields of electromagnetic radiation, or even advanced civilizations. This possibility ignited anxiety behind the scenes. The object was not the only thing, and then something else might be on the way. Something that sent it. Further investigation into the luminosity of 3I Atlas led to a revolutionary hypothesis. The object was doing more than just releasing energy, it was harvesting it. The way the object's light output varied with proximity to the sun, in addition to its apparent lack of chemical reactions, supported the idea that it might be using a solar collection array or embedded photonic absorption system beneath its exterior. A group of theorists postulated that the dust cloud surrounding the object could serve a dual function, both as a disguise to mask its artificial structure and as a medium for capturing solar energy radiation. This would suggest, if true, That 3i Atlas is a completely self-sustaining craft designed to travel indefinitely through deep space, refueling itself as it travels between stars. This notion aligns with known theoretical models of Interstellar, probes machines that could remain dormant for centuries, activating only when they reach a star system worth investigating. And if our solar system triggered that activation, then the message was received as international space agencies searched for answers. One truth emerged, increasingly clear: we need more time. Despite decades of speculation about contact with extraterrestrials, our philosophical, political, and scientific systems are wildly unequipped to process what 3i Atlas may represent. No official statements had been made, but internal documents leaked from agencies in France, Japan, and Brazil all hinted at similar conclusions. This object might not just be an anomaly, but a first encounter in slow motion. And unlike what Hollywood taught us, there was no landing, no sudden appearance in the sky. No immediate responses, just data. Only light, only silence. The Webb keeps an eye on the object every day. Yet each response it provides seems to raise two more questions. This is contact, then it's contact on their terms, not ours, quiet, distant, unsettling. And that may be the most terrifying thing, because what we're witnessing may not be an invitation, it might be an investigation. And we may already have been observed. Just when astronomers thought 3i Atlas had settled into an established trajectory pattern, something unexpected happened. Its luminosity spiked dramatically. This didn't happen slowly, like an increase caused by its proximity to the sun. A sudden flare was captured in real time by the James Webb Telescope and verified by a number of ground-based observatories. The brightness of the object increased by nearly 40% in under 2 minutes and then remained stable at a new heightened level. No obvious explanation fit the data. There was no evidence of solar-wind interaction, no impact event, no disintegration of the fragmentary kind. It was as if something or someone had turned a switch. The flare wasn't just visible. It carried with it a change in the object's thermal signature, almost as if systems had powered on. Theorists proposed a chilling possibility. This object had entered an awakened phase, either by its proximity to our star or by our own observations. And if this flare was an intentional act, then it was meant to be seen. Orbital calculations from multiple space agencies also found something else. 3 Atlas was no longer precisely following its projected path. It had altered slightly, subtly, but measurably. The alteration cannot be explained by gravity alone. Even solar radiation pressure, often invoked as a scapegoat for small course changes in lightweight objects, didn't add up. This shift was deliberate and more unsettling. It led deeper into the solar system with an adjusted preference that brought it closer to the orbital plane of Earth. The object was no longer just passing through. It had, in effect, changed lanes. Some scientists cautioned restraint, calling it a gravitational anomaly. But others perceived the shift as a tactic, a subtle correction that neither a rock nor a comet had ever made. If 3 Atlas was capable of even a minimal amount of movement or navigation, it meant we were no longer observing a relic. We were watching a vessel in motion, a vessel with intent, as the object came within striking distance of spectroscopic instruments aboard the Webb and Hubble telescopes. Scientists began to detect elements and compounds that added more warning. Signs, traces of highly reflective alloys, rare earth elements, and spectral absorption lines resembling compounds never before cataloged in our periodic table were detected. These were not the kinds of materials one would find in a frozen chunk of rock from across the stars. They were engineered, or at the very least, synthesized under conditions unknown to naturally exist. One spectral profile matched no known chemical process, but closely resembled theoretical compounds proposed in quantum material labs. Substances believed to exist only under the influence of intense magnetic fields or quantum confinement. This Discovery implied either unfathomable age, suggesting the object predates human civilization by millennia, or highly advanced manufacturing from a civilization far superior to ours. The nature of the materials spoke louder than any indication, even if we couldn't decode the message. The messenger itself was unnatural, with mounting evidence pointing to a non-natural origin. Governments and agencies began reacting, not publicly, but with unmistakable urgency. Encryption levels rose on observatory networks. Research teams were quietly reassigned. The sudden, unforeseen rise in satellite traffic recalibrations was noted across multiple continents. Spacefaring nations initiated discreet contingency discussions behind closed doors. One leaked document from an international defense consortium recommended that Atlas might not be a lone visitor, but a scout. The object's unusual structure, its apparent stable rotation, and its ability to continue functioning across interstellar distances indicated a design consistent with observation. Probes over time. But what was it scouting, if it was scouting? And, more disturbingly, what might come next? Cross universities, observatories, and military command centers. A terrifying consensus was forming. We no longer existed alone in the universe. And the first contact might not be a conversation, but an assessment. As speculation boiled over, a bold team at the SETI Institute decided to take the risk no one else would. They sent a focused radio signal pulse directly toward the projected location. Of 3 Atlas, the message contained universal mathematical constants, the periodic table, and basic visual representations of humanity. It was meant to be a cosmic handshake, a cautious hello. Days passed, then a week with no response. But just when the experiment was about to be archived as another unanswered call into the dark, one of the Chilean monitoring stations registered something strange. A far-off frequency band return pulse, distorted but unmistakably timed to reflect the initial message. It wasn't a reply in language. There was no echo. It was a ping, a signal of return with just enough variance to imply it wasn't a passive reflection. It had been processed. The item had been returned. But the SETI team was most shaken by the signal itself. The timing was to blame because the response arrived exactly 72 hours after transmission to the second. It indicated that something had not only received our message, but had calculated the delay and given a deliberate response. Following the detection of the return ping, observatories around the globe began experiencing technical anomalies. Infrared sensors revealed erratic thermal mapping for the first time since launch. Hubble's gyroscopic sensors detected the smallest fluctuations despite the orientation being stable. Ground-based telescopes experienced what were initially dismissed as software hiccups, erroneous star charts, inexplicable pixel distortions, and frozen data streams precisely when focused on 3 Atlas. But these errors did not occur at random. They occurred in synchronized windows, as if coordinated, as if someone or something didn't want us looking too closely. A black ops thought tank, buried in the European Space Agency, led to the theory. The object wasn't just emitting signals. It was selectively jamming us, being intrusive. The implications were staggering. An inactive visitor doesn't hide who it is. A scout does. If the object was actively managing what we could see and when we could see it, then we weren't watching. We were permitted to dot and then silence. Within days of the signal event, updates from Webb were delayed, restricted, and eventually rerouted. No public logs existed any longer. The European Space Agency issued a hazy statement regarding instrument recalibration. NASA simply withdrew their comments. Even reputable journals that had been covering 3 Atlas closely began publishing neutral summaries or retracting stories that lacked detail. The astrophysics community was split. Some believed the organizations were attempting to validate the discovery before going public. Others believed something far darker. that the truth had already been confirmed and was now being contained. The few independent observatories left began releasing raw data streams to the public. But these were quickly drowned in a flood of misinformation and speculation. What had previously been a global scientific mystery transformed into a strategic asset. And history has demonstrated what occurs when a discovery is deemed classified by governments. Silence kills truth. In a desperate attempt to comprehend what they were observing, a coalition of astronomers and mathematicians turned to pattern recognition and probability theory. They were no longer seeking to communicate. They were searching for evidence of intent. And that's when they discovered the most terrifying pattern, the object's path through the solar system. While seemingly natural, mirrored a Fibonacci arc when plotted against planetary positions. An ancient spiral of proportional beauty found throughout nature and, by chance, in many communication protocols on Earth. Furthermore, the timing of its course corrections, the light flares, and even the ping response were correlated with prime number sequences. The odds of this occurring naturally were astronomically low. These designs were selected. It meant this 3 Atlas was not just traversing the solar system by flight. It was navigating with mathematical precision, as if following a map or a schedule. Now, only a few theorists whispered the unthinkable. This might not be an interstellar probe. It might be an interstellar message, not made of sound or images, but of actions. And we had only decoded the first word. As the dust of confusion settled, one truth remained impossible to ignore. 3 Atlas was never just a rock. From the unnatural light it emitted to the signal it returned, from the rare materials to the calculated change in direction. Each and every piece of this enigma points to a single unpleasant conclusion. We have not been alone for a very long time, and we might never have been told. The James Webb Telescope, built to peer into the birth of galaxies, may have instead caught a glimpse of something designed to examine the past, something ancient, deliberate and watching, not from the security of a faraway star system, but from the threshold of our own celestial neighborhood. And yet, silence reigns. The agencies refuse to speak. The data is withheld. The world, it seems, has been deemed not ready. However, we saw the light. We followed the road. And now we ask the question that terrifies even the most rational minds. What follows next? Did 3 Atlas just pass through, recording our small world before continuing its voyage? Or was it merely the first of many, a probe leading the way for something greater? Something waiting for a signal to move forward? In the end, it may not matter whether 3 Atlas was a machine or something else entirely. It doesn't matter how. It got there. It reacted when it saw. And now, somewhere in the cold, endless darkness, something may be turning its attention toward the blue planet that blinked first. The countdown perhaps has already begun, and the universe, once again, reminds us that we are not the focal point. We are the observed.